Yesterday, we talked about Max Verstappen and why he is going to win the 2021 Formula One World Championship. Well, today we are going to look at Lewis Hamilton, the 7-time champion, and why he is going to win his 8th. Basically, we're going to look at Lewis Hamilton's stats, his numbers, how he's done at the Yas Marina circuit, and then we are also going to look at his season, everything else he's done, some other factors on why he is going to win his record-breaking 8th title. So, first of all, this season, 16 podiums in 21 races, 8 wins, which came at Bahrain, Portugal, Spain, Great Britain, his home race, Russia, Brazil, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia. I believe that is all of his wins this year, but obviously Lewis Hamilton has won the last, let's see here, 4 championships ever since the last one he lost in 2016 to his teammate Nico Rosberg. It has been all Lewis Hamilton. He has won every single championship since then. He has dominated seasons. He's had some challenges. Ferrari challenged him a bit in 2018, but he pulled away at the end. It's been all Lewis Hamilton for the past, other than that year, even the year he lost to Rosberg, he was the second best, guy. It came down to the last few laps. So Lewis Hamilton, arguably the greatest driver of all time. He's won 7 career championships, which is tied from most of all time with Michael Schumacher. Hamilton holds or is tied with Schumacher in almost every category. He has the most race wins. I believe he has the most poles. Probably has the most podiums if I had to guess. And now he's looking to break that tie with Schumacher for the most championships. His championship seasons was his first in 2008, which was a dramatic one with McLaren. It took down to the last corner at Brazil where he passed Timo Glock to get that final point to beat Felipe Massa. And then his other championship years were 2014, 2015, and then 17, 18, 19, 20. So he's looking for number 8. So he has won championships in every way, shape, and form. He knows how to get it done. He knows how to win a championship, and he knows how to win it in a close championship battle. However, they have been talking about this the past few weeks. Lewis Hamilton has never won a championship when he has trailed in the points in the last 6 races of the season. He has trailed Max Verstappen all the way up till this week. He was trailing heading into Saudi Arabia, trailing heading into Qatar, trailing going into Brazil. It has not been a typical Lewis Hamilton season where he dominates. He wins a ton of races. He wins a ton of poles. He's had a great season. I mean, this is it's not a down year. That is not the term I'm going to use. But it has not been a normal Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes dominant season. And they still have 8 wins and are tied for the championship heading into the final race. So they're not on their best, I guess. They haven't been all season their best. They've had their moments where they haven't looked like their typical Mercedes self, but the past few weeks they have looked like their typical Mercedes self. Front row lockouts, leading a lot of laps, fastest laps, winning races. They've won 3 straight with Hamilton, I think. So, they've looked amazing no matter what the circumstances have been. They were in a hole going into Brazil, and they have dug themselves out of that hole. They now hold a 28-point lead in the constructors' standings, and Lewis Hamilton is tied with Verstappen heading into Abu Dhabi. So, obviously, as I said, with the championships, he's won a lot of championships. He knows how to get it done. He knows what the pressure is like. I think that plays to his advantage. Max Verstappen doesn't really seem bothered by the pressure. He's not in the media. He doesn't sound stressed. He sounds pretty calm and cool, but he's never had this situation before. He's never been in a championship battle in Formula One, whereas Lewis Hamilton, he's won 7 of them and been in other title fights before. So I would say that is a big advantage to Hamilton. He's been in multiple title fights with different drivers, different types of drivers with different skills, different approaches to the racing. And, Max Verstappen is also one of those guys. So, I think that plays a huge advantage into Lewis Hamilton's hands. And another random kind of fact that I think plays, I don't know if it's an advantage, but it's kind of random. He's undefeated in the Middle East this year. Won at Bahrain, won at Qatar, Saudi Arabia. He is not lost in the Middle East. So, maybe that's an advantage to him. And also, looking at his Abu Dhabi stats over his career, he's got a few wins. He won with McLaren in 2011, and then he won in 2014, 2016, 2018, and 2019 with Mercedes, so he has a few wins. And if we look at his most recent finishes compared to Max Verstappen when Verstappen entered the sport, Hamilton got second in 2015, he won in 2016, he finished second in 2017, and he won in 2018 and 2019, and last year he finished third, which, that's a little different, I guess, for him. But, he was coming off of COVID. He said he was still not feeling symptoms, but he was still feeling weary from the COVID kind of what he had. So, that was probably not the best indicator of one of his Abu Dhabi races, but he still got a podium. Very impressive. Other things to look at this year, we talked about yesterday with Max Verstappen. Verstappen, when he has not been involved in a crash, he's been insanely consistent. It has been top 2 finishes for Verstappen when he has not crashed. And Lewis Hamilton, we cannot actually say the same thing, and that is why I think they were in a bit of a hole. Lewis Hamilton was a bit in a hole when he hasn't won or finished on the podium. It hasn't been because they've crashed. Hamilton only has 1 DNF this year versus Verstappen's 3, 4. So, that's... you would think that would play in Lewis Hamilton's advantage, but you look at some of the races where he hasn't finished on the podium. Monaco, he finished 6th or 7th, whereas Verstappen won. That's a huge points differential. You look at Turkey, Verstappen didn't win, but he finished 2nd, and Hamilton finished 5th, I believe. So that was one where they kind of shot themselves in the foot there. One of the Austria races, I think Hamilton finished outside the podium. He finished 4th, whereas Verstappen went on to win. So there have been some races where they have not necessarily been, they haven't been as consistent, I guess, as Verstappen and Red Bull, and that has kind of hurt them a bit going down the stretch, looking at the broad, what the year has been for them. We look at Verstappen, we pretty easily know what is the reason he has not clinched the championship. That's DNFs. Azerbaijan, Silverstone, the crash at Hungary where he got lots of damage, Monza. Whereas Hamilton, we look at it, and the DNF at Monza, yes, that did hurt them. But, you look at Monaco, you look at Azerbaijan after Verstappen crashed out due to a tire failure. Hamilton had a great opportunity to gain potentially a full race of points. He was on the front row for that final start, but he had the wrong brake setting on, and he went straight through turn 1, and he scored 0 points. So Mercedes and Lewis Hamilton, they have figured it out these past few weeks. They have picked up their game. They have the speed. They've been making less mistakes, but those mistakes early in the season could come back to bite them when looking at this championship as a whole if Verstappen does indeed win. However, I'm a big, big believer in momentum and morale, and that is what Mercedes and Lewis Hamilton has right now. They have won the past few races. It doesn't seem to matter where they go. They are winning races right now. And Verstappen, he's been doing his best to try to hold him off, but it's come to some aggressive times. He's pushed him off track. They've made contact. A lot of things have happened this season between those two, but when you look at Lewis Hamilton, he's a pretty clean driver, I would say, for the most part. But if it comes down to it, we had to talk about it yesterday, we're talking about it today. If Verstappen crashes him, they both don't finish, they get 0 points. Verstappen wins the tiebreaker, which is a disadvantage to them. However, as I said yesterday, if Verstappen does indeed crash Hamilton, I think he will get disqualified from the championship just because, we saw what happened in 1997 with Schumacher and Villeneuve. So I don't expect Verstappen to intentionally crash him or to crash him, but if it does happen, I hate to say this, but advantage Hamilton because they might disqualify Verstappen. And, I don't know. I hate to say advantage, but that's the fact of the matter. So, yeah, and then looking at practice, we actually had 2 practices yesterday, wherever you are. Here in the U.S., it was early this morning. I was up for it. Great time. But Verstappen was fastest in the first practice, but Lewis Hamilton was fastest in the second practice. And once again, this Abu Dhabi track really fits Mercedes. 2 long straightaways in Sector 2. They took away a couple of the chicanes, the slower corners, and turned them into faster corners, make the track shorter but make them more straight. a more flowing track, if you will. And that has played to Mercedes' advantage. That is a more Mercedes-like track. So that is a huge advantage for them. And as I said yesterday, with the teammate situation, that is a huge advantage for Lewis Hamilton. Perez is a great driver, don't get me wrong, but he is not a great qualifier. Bottas consistently will be top 3 in qualifying. He will be on the front row. He can be on the front row. He's gotten poles at Brazil and Mexico recently. So Bottas, he's a pretty good qualifier. He is able to get up there, qualify, and, you know, that's going to help Lewis Hamilton. If they can get a front row lockout and Bottas can hold up Verstappen for a bit, that is going to be a huge advantage for Lewis Hamilton for his chances. But, you know, I don't know. If they are on the front row together, I think it'll be very interesting. And right now with the momentum and, you know, obviously the speed that Mercedes has shown, I think they have to be the favorite right now. So I said yesterday Verstappen has to get the pole. I don't believe the same thing for Lewis Hamilton. I think as long as he starts on the front row, he has a very good shot at winning. We've seen him get some great starts this year. We saw it at Austin at the U.S. Grand Prix where he was leading by turn 1 after starting second. So even if he starts second this weekend behind Verstappen, in no way is he out of this thing. No way at all. So I thoroughly believe that Lewis Hamilton is the favorite for this thing. He's been there before, so really to wrap this thing up, I might have missed something in there, but to wrap this thing up, he has been there before. He knows how to win championship, and he has done it in multiple fashions. He's got the teammate advantage. He's going to have a teammate up there helping him, Bottas, if Bottas can get himself a good qualification. This track suits Mercedes. Lewis Hamilton has a great record at this track with what I think, was it 4, 5, maybe 6 wins at this track. So Hamilton, I think, is the favorite for this title. And tomorrow's going to be a crucial day for qualifying for him, for Verstappen. But, you know, if it comes down to it, it's going to be a great race. We'll talk about this more tomorrow. I'll give you my preview and stuff. I'll think about it, but I might do a live reaction to qualifying. I haven't decided yet. But, yes, very fun time. Very great season in Formula One, obviously, between Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton. But Lewis Hamilton going for a historic mark, an 8th world championship. That's incredible to think about. One of the best drivers of all time, if not the greatest. You know, people make their arguments. You know, Schumacher was the greatest. Senna was the greatest. You know, Fangio was the greatest. But Lewis Hamilton is definitely in that conversation. And if he breaks the record for the most championships, I think that will up his, I don't know how to say, his status. He's already GOAT status, but, you know, this might notch him above some of those other guys I just mentioned. But even in what we are going to call a down year for Mercedes, they have found a way to still compete and potentially win both the championships. They've had their moments where they've slipped up. They haven't looked great, but they've figured out a way. They have figured out a way to be in it at the end. And especially at this track, that'll play a huge advantage to them. But yeah, thanks for watching this video. Hope you enjoyed it. As I said, tomorrow I'll do something. I don't know if it's going to be a live reaction or, you know, just recapping qualifying. But I'm looking forward to this race. I think it'll be very interesting. You know, we saw a lot in the first 2 practices. From what I was reading, it looked like Mercedes was faster in the short run and the qualifying speed. But Red Bull looked better when they had more fuel in the car, you know, in the longer run. So that could play to potentially even it out, which I would love to see. I'd love to see an even, clean fight on Sunday, but I'm looking forward to it.